disease, and I'm the cure.
Your dad's action movies with The Angry Dad.
How do you like your ribs?
Can you fly, Bobby?
Clarence, no!
Hasta la vista, baby.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
All right, this is The Angry Dad, and man, I got an episode for you. I got a special guest, and we are covering Stand Your Ground. Man, talk about action, talk about something that just hits right. I am a man who loves movies in a way where this is realistic, this is probable, this is like, you know, like real deal shit. So, and it hit just right. So I'm going to get a lot into that, but I have Fansu Njie with me and the director. And let me right off top, he did a movie on Netflix that I loved. It just hit every portion. It almost reminded me of Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Last Man Standing, or Last Man Down. That's what it is. It's Last Man Down. And god damn it, it was a fucking good movie. So I want to get into Stand Your Ground. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and like the mindset of this movie, because I have a lot of questions about it.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a Swedish film director, and I got this screenplay called Stand Your Ground in my lap, and and what actually intrigued me was the law itself, because you can't find this law in Europe, especially not in Sweden. So that really intrigued me. Like what does it actually mean? Where's the limit? And how far can you go? And why is it so different in different states? So I wanted to make my version of it.
Yes.
As a Swedish filmmaker making an American film. So that's that was my approach. And then I used a hinge of Western style in it.
And I'm gonna give a quick review of the movie here. And it's a former special operative Jack Johnson uses Stand Your Ground law to seek vengeance for his wife's murder that ignites a war against a local crime family. Now check this out. Stand Your Ground law for a lot of us in America is like it is back and forth for a lot of people. I'm an avid gun person, and like I said, just recently I'm in California, and they just tried to pass a law where the Stand Your Ground was you actually had to retreat even if you're in your house. So, understand that like Stand Your Ground means a lot of different things in a lot of different places. Stand Your Ground could literally be outside, inside. You have to protect yourself at all causes. But in California, we have crazy gun laws. And one of the laws that they were trying to pass, which luckily didn't, was even in your house, you couldn't stand your ground. If you were in a second story building, you'd have to jump out the window to protect yourself. So like, even if you try to save yourself, protect yourself and even your family from bodily harms, luckily it didn't pass. But this is a real law. This is real things that happen. And what's crazy is every aspect of this movie. And I don't want to give away too much, but the thing is like, even when the sheriff came up and was like, I just had that slimy feeling. I was like, God, I don't like this fucking guy. And you know what I'm saying? And it really manipulated it. And then also too, this is a star-studded cast. I don't know how you got half the stars you got in this movie, because right off top, it just hit part. Could you talk a little bit about like just getting this crew together?
Yeah, I mean, you always have a wish list, and then you reached out to the people that you actually believe could suit those roles. So I'm super happy with each role. I mean, everyone really suited their part, look-wise and background-wise. So
Yeah.
And that's why I approached the film as like an old Western in that case.
Yeah.
Because the face is so important.
It definitely had that Wild West feel. Like this definitely felt like it could take place in any part of the Midwest, because of just the background, that way the house was set up, and just the atmosphere it had. You know what I'm saying? It was dark, it was gritty. You know what I'm saying? Bright scenes were set up nice, but like I said, a lot of the scenes were just set up for that, just like something's about to go down. Like Eric Roberts, Peter Stortman, Daniel, you like these guys. Like I was like surprised when I seen them pop up. Like I said, I always go into a movie blank. I never like I give all disbelief is suspended. I like every movie I approach this way because I love just being locked in. And that's one of those things. Even my wife sat down with me to watch this, and we were actually able to, like, normally, play on her phones, all that stuff, and you don't get an opportunity to lock into like a reality for a lot of the movies that are made nowadays. But this was one of those ones where I was like, all right, man, this is like set up perfectly. And one of the things too I actually like is you guys use a lot of practical effects in this.
Yeah, that was something I really pushed for.
Yeah.
We had a great team making all those, explosions and stuff, and and you can really feel it because when you go digital 100%, there's no feeling of it.
Yeah, no, that's like I said, the gun. And these are just highlights to myself. There was a gunshot to the face. There was an explosion of a body, and I was just like, oh, I just didn't see that coming, and hitting the way it did because just like you said, it had that texture to it where it was just like, oh shit, like that. This was no CGI, and it just hit really good. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
One of the things also too with this movie is what I liked is, and I said it in the beginning, is everything you set up in this movie is all plausible. This wasn't like I wasn't watching a superhero movie. Someone as Jack Johnson with the tools available, the training and everything set up is exactly what you portrayed in this movie because like I said, this wasn't outlandish. This just wasn't like this crazy like one man army. No, it was a handful of guys in this movie that were on one side and a whole bunch of bad guys. It almost had that reminiscent of like setting up for Predator, setting up for Conan the Barbarian. And I mentioned Arnold Schwarzenegger because it's one of my favorite ones, but I usually like to reference these things, and it just felt like that, where it's like he was doing things that were in your star here, Daniel Jack Johnson, was doing things in accordance of what it would really happen. And did you have emphasis on making sure this was as lifelike, or were you trying to go for like, no, we're going all out, one man army, superhero?
I mean, to be honest, we tried to make a hybrid. I mean, almost making a modern film, but you had a feeling of the 90s and the 80s. So
Yes.
it's serious, but you can also smile, here and there, like but not maybe laugh out loud, but if you have this smiles, then it's, for me, it's really good entertainment, and that's also why I pushed for a slow start, so that it's almost like horror, almost like a horror film in the start, and then it builds up, and then you get to know the characters, and then the action comes slowly, rather than having action full stop from start. So I wanted to try a different approach in the film.
Hey, let me tell you right now, you approached it right because, like I said, the slow build up lets you not connect with the characters. You know what I'm saying? It really like when key scenes were happening, you felt a certain way. Like even like I said, like I have disdain for characters in the movie because I'm like, man, fuck this guy. You know what I'm saying? Like this is
Mm.
that. Like that. That's what you want. You want to be able to have the empathy of like I would put myself if I was in this situation, I would have done the exact same thing. And that's exactly what this was. Like I said, the hybrid feel that you gave it was exactly on point, at least for me, where I'm just like, I understand what is happening and I feel, and guess what? I would take as far steps as they did in this movie. You know what I'm saying? Like you really set the pacing,
Mm.
especially with the connection with the friends. Also, too, I didn't see the turn at the end of certain characters because, like I said, it's like when the aspect changed of like good versus evil, right and wrong. It really, it like I said, it caught me right at the end as it was happening. So like, you guys really set it up perfectly.
That's great to hear. Yeah, and that's
Yes,
also, I believe, when you have a slow start, it has to be intriguing, and it's so much easier, when you have suspense underneath that grabs you, because then you want to know, what's coming, and then you have all the the gunfire. So
Oh yeah, and one of the things, like I said, in action movies, one of the things that is hard, like action stars aren't typically known for great acting. And that's just, like you're getting these guys like Jack Johnson, the character in here. He's a jacked fuck. He's a former bodybuilder, well built, completely nails the part, and it's just like like the facial features. I'm just wondering about the emotions that you were trying to have him portray really in there. Like, what was the kind of guidance you were giving him on trying to like make sure that he stays within this character's limits?
yeah, I mean, we worked on I mean, the core was like a former soldier, a veteran, and how far is he willing to go, and and also asking ourselves, how far would we go to to protect, and especially losing someone you love in a brutal way. I mean, most people would go very far, to protect, and and also how far are you willing to go for vengeance? That was also a very question we had for his character. So we worked a lot so that the audience can really understand him, because when you have such a brutal intro, then it's so much easier for the audience to actually like him, because he can kill 500 people afterwards. As soon as you make that setup strong and understandable and believable.
Yeah, no, like I said, he was able to really tap into that character, really, and like I said, there's a few flashbacks that happen in this movie, and it really, really like it almost turns the heart, because it's like that's how far I would go for that exact same feeling. And like I said, you like with a lot of the characters in this movie, and a lot of people that are portrayed in this movie, it's like, man, it's just it changes it changes the aspect of like a lot of these action movies, because like one of the things that we haven't had in quite some time is solid action movies. You know what I'm saying? Like it's something that Hollywood's kind of turned away from, and we're not getting what we used to get. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I'm 80s to early 90s action movies is that's my forte. That's something I like to be able to switch off the brain, enjoy, step into something that is just completely insane. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, the whole situation in this movie is all plausible. These are things that could really happen, but the thing is, it's taken to that next level to where you can tie in the emotions and the feelings to this movie. So it's like this is something. And like I said, for those that are listening right now, this is something you have to watch. It came out May 5th. It's getting ready to drop out on the 27th on digital copy, and Prime, all that stuff where you can get it all streaming. And me tell you now, this is definitely a solid freaking watch for those who love action movies, those who like something that is just on that next level of like, god damn, like because like I said, it sucked me in. You know what I'm saying? That's those when I always call it, like I call it down the middle. If a movie's good, a movie's good. But if a movie's bad, I'll guess what? I'll definitely tell you it's bad. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about honesty. But like I said, it's just great to see that like you guys can actually nail that American aspect down in a way where it everything seems like very plausible, very real, very realistic. And also too, it caught my wife's attention too, because like I said, I was watching it, and then all of a sudden she sat down, so you was able to get that female attraction where I was like, oh, okay, what's going on here? you know
Yeah, that's good. That's good, because it's it's supposed to be watchable for all for everyone, more or less. And that's why it's so important to have all the elements in the first 20 minutes.
Yep.
Action and drama and horror in a nice cooked mix.
That's it. I think you got the recipe pretty well, pretty down right. You know what I'm saying? So it definitely hit in all those ways. And with all this action scenes that are happening, with everything that was actually going on, you know what I'm saying? Like, how difficult was it to like set up, reset, and all this stuff for these action scenes, because they were pretty intricate. You know what I'm saying? The setup in the house for the main of, or not the, I wouldn't say the main event, but for the first event You know what I'm saying? Before shit really got crazy.
Mm.
How difficult was just that setup? Because man, it seemed like you had so much going on with a lot of setup.
Yeah, I mean it was lots of pre-planning, and yeah, I mean also having very fun, and also make those decisions. What are we going to use, and also I mean we had a fantastic stunt team that made previous videos to show us, and then we could make everything around those training videos as well. And then so it's I mean there are so many elements you have to work with, and also the practical effects. How could we use them the most effectively, and make a new twist on everything. So I believe, I mean, my approach was to try to make an American film, but make it as as a foreigner, from Sweden, with my background, and look at the entire story and the style from my point of view, to make it a little different.
Oh yeah, no, you definitely did. And what's funny is like I try to never spoil a movie. I always try to give my thoughts and the feelings. Say I'll always read the blurb of the movie in these things, but during like the final scenes, it was almost made me feel like not Home Alone-ish, but it was just like there was so much setup in these things, and like I said, they're just traps, but it's like I was like, yes. I was like, it was like just like you said, you're gonna get some smiles, you're gonna get some action, but it's like there was those little victories in there where you're like, yes, I'm glad that happened.
Mm. Yeah, I mean we had super fun. I mean my approach was to make Home Alone in in an old Western style, so an R-rated Home Alone.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I'll
that
tell you
was
right now, you definitely gave me that feeling, because, like I said, it was just like I said, it was just one of those scenes that I really enjoyed. I thought it was just one of those little smiles. I'm like, yes, like I said, I'm for those who you want to know what we're talking about, go watch the fucking movie. That's just what I'm going to say. That's just how this goes.
yep.
You know what I'm saying? So everything was just dialed in. And let me tell you right now, that I like the ending. Uh, I didn't see that happening the way it happened. All right, there was a lot of buildup, there was a lot of tension, there was a lot of expectations for this ending, and it was just slightly twisted in a way where I didn't see it coming. And that's something about movies that I love. That is something that if like I'm one of those people, if I sit down at within the first 10 minutes, 5 minutes, I can tell you every single thing that's getting ready to happen. I can tell you the lead up. Like I said, I just have this magic gift. I've seen so many movies that I can kind of guess the ending, and I'm
Mm.
usually pretty spot on. But this wasn't one of those. You know what I'm saying? You really changed it up. So like I said, that was a great surprise, because like I said, when I can't figure out a movie, it makes me enjoy it that much better. Because
Mm.
like I said, it out of the blue, the way the change is, and like I said, the main characters, same room, everything's there, but it just twists in a different way. You know what I'm saying? What was the actual process on that? Because like, was that something you could set up and designed, or was it something kind of like, like this is how we want this twist to be?
Yeah, I mean that was a big part of the film, to make it different. You believe something and then it's something else. So I mean that's yeah. I mean and that's something that actually attracted many of the actors as well. That
Yeah.
this story had some different twists and turns throughout the film. Not streamlined in a in an easy way, and that makes everything more interesting. Because
Yeah.
as you say, I mean, the audience nowadays, they have seen so much, so you have to take different paths all the time, and change stuff. I think it's very important.
And it is very important. Like I say, because it's like, how many times can you do the same thing and and we always get the same outcome. But like I said, the outcome on this one was just not what I saw it, not what I thought it was going to be. And like I said, it's just one of those things that's just like the icing on the cake. It was a little cherry on top of the sundae, where it was like, okay, this is completely in the different direction that I seen it. The ending scene, flowers. It was just a lot more of what I wanted to be. It was a happy ending, but it wasn't a happy ending. You know what I'm saying? It was like it was like right where it needed to be, and I greatly enjoyed that. So I definitely appreciate you guys setting that up and doing it like that, because like I said, the one thing about movies is you got to suspend the belief on like what things are. You got to have the action. It's got to drive through. It's got to be not over the top, but just right in that right vein where it's like not believable, unbelievable, but at the same time, this is all actual, like real stuff that could happen. And then that subtle end, that twist, and it was just like I enjoyed it. So I definitely, like I said, I don't rate movies. I always say go watch it, don't go watch it. But this is one of those must sees. Make sure you check it out. Make sure you guys watch it. Stand your ground. Is there anything that you'd like the audience to actually know about this movie that we haven't covered? Actually,
I think we have covered everything. I mean, it's I hope the audience will enjoy the film, see it as good entertainment.
Disease.
You know,
I'm the
and
cure.
then just see a different version of
Your dad's
how the,
action
the
movies
law
with
itself
the
is
Angry Dad.
portrayed.
How do you like your wits?
exactly. So, like I said, this is your Angry Dad. I'm telling you guys right now, Stand Your Ground, go check it out. I enjoyed it, and if I enjoyed it, that means you like it because you're listening to this. And I appreciate you coming on. I have a little saying,
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a little saying. I do a little thing, and for all my listeners out there, I'll see y'all on the next time. Fuck.